Welcome to the Golden Moment podcast. My name's Mijo Biscan. In today's episode, I had a great conversation with Will Frost. He is a Wim Hof instructor, which is how I met Will at a workshop that he was running. And it was a really great experience. I won't go into too much about it. We talk about it in the episode. But Will was really generous in describing the Wim Hof Method, the benefits of it. We talked about this idea of Hormesis, which is basically how your body can get stronger when we actually put it under certain levels of stress, low levels of stress, and which is an idea that I'm really fascinated by on the physical level, but also on the psychological level. And it was just a really great conversation. And I'm really happy to introduce Will to you and to the world. And so here he is, Mr. Will Frost.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. All right.
It's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you. So I'm here with William Frost, Will Frost, the Frost Master. I don't know what your other nicknames are, but
Frostmaster, that's fine.
The Frostmaster. So I will have introduced you a little bit before we step into this, but tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and obviously focusing in on some of the magic that I've been involved with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that means.
I most certainly do.
Yes.
Right. Well, I guess I specialize in helping people deal with stress. That's where I'm at these days. That's what my vocation is. That's what I feel like my mission is right now. That's my why. And right now my what is using techniques which I learned through Wim Hof Method, which is a particular style of breath work, and that's opened me up into a whole field of different breathing modalities. Like I specialize in breathing, and breathing is the one thing which I focus on, really try and hone in on to mitigate stress in people. There's so much to uncover in just the breath alone. And I feel like that avenue in and of itself is just so, I mean, you've experienced it, it's just so powerful. It's such a profound experience in and of itself. I mean, there's a lot of different methods you can de-stress, but for me, the quickest and most effective way is using breath work. And it was, like I said, it was through the Wim Hof Method that introduced me to the world of, the medicinal potential of breathing. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So was that sort of your first introduction to the idea of breath work and breathing and how you have so much control over your autonomic nervous system and all those things?
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't the first door to open, but it was
where the door got kicked in.
It's got smashed off the hook. But it was through yoga that I first was introduced to breathing. For those of your listeners who have done yoga, you understand that it's not just the postures. You know, the undercurrent of a yoga practice is the breathing, right? They say the postures come second, the breathing comes first. You need to maintain that fluidity throughout the entire practice. And I remember at the time, I think I've been practicing yoga for like 4 or 5 months, and I was really feeling the physical benefits of it, but I didn't really understand anything about the breathing side of things. Like it didn't really make much sense to me until one class. I remember leaving feeling like I just smoked a massive joint, and I was like, hang on. that's odd.
What have they got piping through the air conditioner? That shouldn't happen, right?
I was like, I'm coming back for more, sign me up. But I realized that was the first session I had where I felt fully present with my breath from the moment I stepped into the door to the moment I was in Shavasana laying down on the mat after 90 minutes. And I was like, okay, so that's interesting. This is how I feel. And when you feel something, it's normally truth, right? You know what I mean? Like if you feel something organically, nature doesn't really make mistakes. So if you feel something organically, it's normally like it's there for the right reasons, right? So I felt this feeling, and I was like, it can't have been the postures, as I've been doing this for 4 or 5 months already. It's got to be the fact that I was connected to the breath for the whole 90 minutes. And that really, as you so beautifully put, blasted down the door of my introduction to breath work and my introduction to the hidden, I guess, potential. I don't mean, I keep using the word potential, but it's a fine adjective to describe it, like the potential behind breath work. And then there's only a few months after that I really discovered Wim Hof. And I genuinely believe if I didn't have that experience through yoga, I would have probably turned away from Wim Hof completely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I probably would have listened to him, and it just would not have aligned with me if I didn't have that experience in the first place.
Yeah.
So because I already had that experience of you know, like through yoga, it really broadened my awareness to what Wim Hof had to say. And then, I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah. So for people who don't know Wim Hof, I'll leave some kind of link around here, but
totally link to his website.
Yeah.
It's a great website.
Do you have like a 1-minute synopsis of him and his journey, what he offers? And he's a remarkable human being. It's really how you and I got in contact, because I discovered him through the Vice documentary that I'll probably link below. When I was in Berlin, I'd just been in Iceland, and I discovered this thing, and I was like, what the hell is this guy? So he was well known for doing cold exposure, extreme kind of feats of endurance. But then a lot of it, and that's what they focus on mainly in that documentary. But then he kind of talks about the breath work and all that. That really opened me up, and I thought, that sounds like something I really want to do. So then when I got back to Australia, I can't remember how, I think I just looked it up. And I found there was one happening in Melbourne, and I thought, I'm going to go along. And then met you, had a phenomenal experience doing it, the breath work alone, but then all the understanding that you share, all the science that is behind it. And then I don't know if we should talk about having an ice bath, basically. Having an ice bath for 3 or 4 minutes, I think it was a phenomenal experience. And for me, I was coming to it because of all the mindset stuff, because I'm fascinated with, what's possible. And the word you mentioned, potential, is one of my favorite words. I'm just fascinated with what we can do as human beings. So is that a fair enough summary of what
that's
it does?
a fantastic. I couldn't put it better myself.
I'm pretty sure
there is. Well,
and we'll get into it, and you will.
Yes, yeah, 100%. But it's interesting that depending who asks me that question depends on the answer I give. And the reason I say that is because there is so many things happening in the Wim Hof method. There's so many things happening at the same time. When you really go down that rabbit hole, you see moving parts everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is because the human super system is a super system made up of many little systems. And like cogs in a clock, when one moves, so does the other. So they're all so tightly connected. So depending who asks me that question of what the Wim Hof method is all about, depends what kind of answer I give and what kind of avenue I go down. Yeah. But if you really want to boil it all down to a word, you hit the nail on the head. It's unlocking the potential. It's unlocking the human potential within us, which is not necessarily being locked forever. It's something which Wim feels, and I reciprocate, that has been locked through years of living in comfort, like the Industrial Revolution, agriculture, all of these things which are really detached us from nature, which has made us super smart and super incredible as a species, has really dumbed us down in terms of our biology. And the Wim Hof method is just a fantastically simple method to unlock that potential, which is just laying dormant in our biology.
Yeah,
got to wake it up again.
Yeah, there's a part of your workshop where you describe this that I found really eye-opening, and maybe you can kind of give us more of the context, because we forget that humans have evolved through really difficult conditions, and that this was the part that I love, and I don't want to steal your punchline, but it's been in recent times where that's different. So do you want to give us a bit more of that context? Because I love the way you put it.
Yeah, no, totally. There's a phrase I use in my workshops, trying to think what it is. It's been so long, COVID. Really I can't think of the word. I can't think of the phrase, but basically it sums it up quite nicely that we live just completely detached from nature. I mean, we as a species, like anatomically modern humans, so people who just look exactly like you and me with the same brain size and the same autonomic nervous system and whatnot, same biological makeup, we've been kicking around for like 200,000 years. But it's only in the last 2, 3, 4 at max 1,000 years that we've really been encompassing more and more levels of comfort into our lives, right? And as I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but nor is a pizza. But you don't want to eat pizza every day for the rest of your life. So the whole idea of us being so connected to living in comfort has completely detached us from what our bodies have been designed to be able to cope with. Cold exposure, extreme heat, like saunas and stuff. But that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg. There's really so much more we can do with our bodies once we start to, I guess, reintroduce it to something that it is designed to do. So I personally believe, I don't know if there's actually any science that will back this up, but I personally believe that the reason why we have so much illness and stress these days, but not just like stress, I'm talking like emotional stress and like physiological stress, really comes down to the fact that we are no longer stimulating our bodies in the way that they want to be stimulated, in the way that they've been designed to stimulate. Like if you just take our immune system, for example, our immune system is always on. Like it always wants something to do. It always wants something to fight. Because when we were living outside as like hunter-gatherers, we were so exposed to everything, to the elements, to diseases, to pathogens, and our immune system. And this is very important to understand, like particularly right now, when we're sanitizing everything. Like we don't want any bacteria on anything. Like if there's no bacteria in our lives, we would be dead. Okay? It's funny, like it's almost like a paradox, but our immune system is perfectly designed to cope with so much more than what we give it. And the more we sanitize and the more we live in comfort and not expose ourselves to any kind of stress, like a little bit of stress is really good for us. If we're not exposing our bodies to stress, then our immune systems will get bored and it will seek entertainment elsewhere in the form of autoimmune diseases. And that's where the immune system starts to fight itself. Because like I said, it always wants something to do. It always wants something to fight. But if there's nothing to fight, it will turn on itself. And then you'll create a very hostile environment in your own body. It's like a civil war inside of your own immune system. And that leads to, as I said, autoimmune diseases. It can lead to depression and chronic inflammation and all these different things, which seems to be a pandemic in and of itself today. That was a very long-winded explanation of the Wim Hof method, but that's just one element, re-exposing yourself to extreme environments to introduce a little bit of adaptation.
Yeah. And so that's related to something else that I also learned from you that I think about in other contexts is this the idea of hormesis? Is that what it's called? Hormesis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of what you're talking about with stress. So I think about it in my own life all the time, but I also, work with artists and creatives, and they get under certain types of stress. And so stress can be this thing that unravels you, or it can be something, if it's framed correctly, can be something that really psychologically really empowers you and is very a powerful thing. So how do you think about, maybe we can start with like physical stress. You mentioned sunbathing and there are examples like that. What are some examples of, well, maybe if you define hormesis better than I have, and talk about, the different physical stresses that we have, and maybe how that's related to psychological stress.
Yeah, sure. So hormesis is the idea of introducing a little bit of stress into your body for it to, not enough to completely topple it over, but just a little bit for it to be able to deal with. So yes, sunbathing is a good example. You don't want to be sitting outside in the sun for hours and hours because it'll fry you. But a little bit is really good for you. You get your photons and you get your vitamin D, and that's really good for your circadian rhythm. When you wake up in the morning, it's always good to get sun within the first hour of you waking up. Anyway, I digress. Sunbathing is one example. Working out, strength exercise, or like high endurance cardio exercise. That's another definition of stress. But that's obviously a well-known example. You go to the gym to break down muscle tissue in order for it to grow back, but it grows back stronger. That's how you grow muscle, and it's how you get strong. It's a very schematic overview, but that's another definition of hormetic stress. And so how hormetic stress plays in the Wim Hof method is that in both the breath work and the cold exposure. So the cold exposure is the obvious one. But when you're in the cold, you're triggering a fight or flight response, and that triggers a whole cascade of different responses. But when you're in the cold, it's also been shown that you produce opioids. So like feel good, your own endogenous feel good hormones. It's your own endogenous heroin. That's what heroin is made from, opioids. So you produce your own opioids when you're in your ice bath. So when you come out, not only have you just produced hormetic stress, you've also come out feeling euphoric and powerful and really good. Similar to when you have an intense gym session, that last rep on that last set is going to kill, and you might be in pain and sweating and your heart is racing, but you take a breath and you allow our system to calm down. And when you're like, oh, I feel amazing right now. It's it's a similar sort of concept, the ice bath. And you're also providing the similar sort of stress in the breath work as well. So there's a lot going on with hormetic stress, and the whole idea with us living in comfort all the time is that we're no longer providing hormetic stress to our bodies in any way, any way. So a little bit of hormetic stress in our lives every day provides a world of good. In my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's like we're all like personal growth or whatever mostly comes in the form of friction. It's like if there's nothing to push against in life, we don't exercise those psychological muscles or whatever. Which is, I suppose, an example of that is, I don't know, people would say trust fund babies or whatever, who have everything handed to them once they're put out into the real world, or kids have been massively over-parented and have never had to manage any stress or any conflict with their friends or whatever.
It's resilience training, isn't it? It's physical resilience training, but it's also emotional resilience training. And the more resilience you build up for yourself, the more you're able to cope with future stresses. You know what I mean? Like the more you introduce stress into your life, the better you can deal with stress later on in life.
I think that's such an interesting thing. It reveals the paradox where people think, so for me to be able to handle stress, I'm going to remove all stress. I'm going to do everything I can to hide away from stress and shield myself from stress. Where that actually...
It's not how it works.
Not how it works. The way is to move into discomfort, which I know in the Wim Hof Method, he talks about a lot, experiencing discomfort and becoming comfortable in discomfort, being able to manage your mind and your body and tell yourself a different story, which makes you ultimately stronger to go into other adverse environments.
Totally, 100%. But that's not to say you need to be stressing yourself out all the time.
No.
There's always the balance that you need to consider at all times. And you have the one side, which is your active and like arousal and fight or flight state. You got to honor that as much as you honor your relaxing state. But you just want to be relaxed and zen all the time, and not express anger or frustration or stress. But then again, you don't want to be stressed and angry and frustrated all the time and never demonstrate any moments of zen. You need to be able to fluctuate between the two. And like one of the optimal markers for optimal health is one who is able to switch from both with ease. You can go from one side to the other, and the person who can do that is someone who is used to being regularly introduced to moments of stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting distinction between like being under stress a lot of the time, and I suppose most of the time unconsciously being stressed, which leads to illnesses and just poor mental health, I suppose. So I don't want to go too far away from sort of the breath work, but what I'm finding interesting in this discussion is our association with stress. I feel like it's so important that stress, the way in our culture, I suppose, we've been experiencing it, has been quite detrimental. Like, I don't know, people working really long hours in a little cubicle looking at a screen, and then having to work weekends or whatever. I suppose that's maybe the cultural definition of how stress is mostly experienced, which we would call, I suppose, negative stress. But it's been given a very bad rap. So the idea of stress, that if I feel stressed at any time, I have to retreat. And sometimes that probably is the case. Sometimes it's like, okay, I need some downtime or whatever. So I suppose I'm wanting to rejig the definition of stress, or people's association to it, to see that stress can be a positive force. What do you think?
It's funny that I forgot his name. His name escapes me. But the man who coined the term stress, I think the story goes, he didn't have a fine grasp of the English language, and he really meant to say something else, like strain rather than stress.
Oh, right.
Because stress was originally, the word stress was made for machinery. The word stress wasn't designed for human use.
Right. Okay.
It was made to define the act of a machine. That's where the word originates from. And the more that we work like machines and away from our human spirit and human nature, then the more stress or strain we will create in our lives. And again, it comes down to the idea of balance. You need to have the balance between the two. But I think this is a conversation for another podcast, but I feel like it overlaps. It's not as simple as the saying balance. You know what I mean? You need to be able to distinguish the different levels of stress, whether this particular stress is serving me in a good way or whether this stress is serving me in a bad way. I feel like there's a lot of different sub branches we can go off with this.
Yeah.
But to keep it within the realm of this conversation.
I suppose that's one of the things I was sort of alluding to or thinking about, was there are different forms of stress. Even maybe there's a category of positive stress and positive of detrimental stress or something.
Yeah, well, it comes down to perception as well,
Yeah.
doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like something that might be terrifying for me to experience might not be equally as terrifying for you. You know, it all comes down to personal experience, and it all comes down to, you know, individuality, really,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is fascinating in and of itself. It's all subjective.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which brings
the
us
mind state comes in.
Yeah, perfectly back to ice baths and kind of the physical stress part, that the framing is so important of that experience. That
Totally.
And you're in your workshops, you're quite masterful in how you set up that frame, obviously with educating people and then getting the breath work happening and getting people into a state where they already feel like this is like a positive experience I'm having. And then once they go into the bath, they're already expecting it to have a positive outcome. Whereas if they were just like thrown off a cruise ship into the freezing Atlantic or something, they would not be like, this is a great experience. I'm loving this. So framing, the psychological term of framing is so important. And I remember at one of your workshops, I kind of, the first one I just went in and thought, okay, my framing is I'm going to be just calm and present or whatever. And I remember asking you at the second one, I think, like, is there something I should be thinking? Basically, like something I should be placing in my mind that I can focus on. I can't remember exactly what frame you sort of offered me, but I think it was just to relax and enjoy it or something like that. But then the third time I had the experience, I just decided I was going to stay in the frame of love, like love and support, actually. So I was obviously with someone else, and I thought, I'm going to make this a little bit less about me and my experience and see if I can be present for someone else or whatever. And each of those experiences was very different. Yeah. So the framing is really powerful.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Cool. So the breath. I know this is another 7 podcast episodes, which is why people should check out your online training around this, which we will link to, and we'll tell them where to go for that stuff, because it's so powerful. Probably even when you started talking about the breath, if people haven't experienced any of this, they're like, I'm breathing all the time. Okay, fine, big deal. Or, okay, I take a deep breath in. Yeah, I feel a bit better. But but it goes so deep, and it's such a simple. It's almost like it's there right in front of us all the time. It's so normal. We don't. It is an unconscious process. What's been your journey with the breath, or what are some things that really draw you towards going, studying it and understanding it deeper?
The fact that it works.
Yes. That's a good motivator.
You know what I mean? It just works.
Yeah.
There's some things you try, and for me personally, if I don't feel something more or less straight away, like within the first session, then I think, it's probably not for me.
Yeah.
The thing of breathing is that it doesn't take much at all. And you're right, it is right there in front of us. And we're not taught how to breathe. Even saying that out loud sounds really absurd. No one teaches you how to breathe. Of course, I just breathe. It's just something my body does. Yeah, it is something your body does. But what the beautiful thing, like I feel, one of the most beautiful things about it is that it has been gifted to us by nature to work on its own accord. So I can just sit here and my body will just breathe on its own. Or I can take full control over it, and I can change the rhythm, the depth, the intensity. I can change all of these knobs and levers of my breath to almost hack into my body and change it from the inside out. Like that is essentially what you're doing when you manipulate your breath, when you take conscious control over it. And it's the only system, it's the only organ in our body which we can do that with. Like, I can't just sit here and eat something and then tell my body to digest it. That'd be exhausting if I had to do that all the time, because I eat so much. But it's the fact the fact that it just happens automatically. I don't need to think about it. Whereas the breath, we can take control, or we can just let the body do its thing. So you're right, it is right there in front of us, and all we have to do is just learn to tap into it, and it just works. Depending what you want to get out of it, you can change so much of your state, your state of mind, or your physiological state, depending on how you breathe. It's truly magical, and I feel like it's something that should be looked at more now. But I feel like it is. I feel like the whole practice of breath awareness and conscious breathing and breath work, as if you want to call it that, has really become very popular over the last few years. And I feel like Wim Hof was a huge component of that. He's someone who's put this whole practice onto the main stage, so to speak. And so as this COVID situation, more and more information is coming out recently of the power of breath work. And
Will, can I ask you to do you a favor?
Oh yeah, I'm
tilt
sorry.
Your screen a little bit.
God was saying hi.
I didn't want to interrupt, but COVID sitch.
That's okay.
Sure, it's heightened everyone's awareness of their internal state a bit more.
Yes. Yeah, and that's almost a blessing in disguise, I feel. I feel like we were on a slippery slope towards a very ugly bottom. This whole situation has sort of flipped all that around for a lot of people. Made people more conscious of their choices in life. The way they look after their body and they look after their mind, and there's a lot there's a lot of benefits to what's happening right now.
Yeah, I agree. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for this situation. I may not be, doing this podcast, but it's kind of like, all right, I got to get resourceful, because I'd probably be on tour right now. So like, all right, I've got, I want to talk to cool people and, get the word out about music I do. Cool. So when you're talking about, I love that, the visual and the metaphors of just like the knobs and the levers, where you really can change the depth of your breath and the rhythm and intensity. And for people who haven't experienced it, what are some of the things you can experience simply by, I don't know, maybe you can choose a dimension, like, okay, if you start breathing deeper and longer or whatever, this is actually an effect you can create within your body. Or rapid short breaths. I don't know what all the combos are, but some of those kind of altered states or experiences people can have.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you want to break it down into the like a visual, you can look at your upper body from like the hip up as like three zones. So you have your abdominal region, which is like here, that's like zone 1.
Yeah.
When you have your chest and like upper collarbone, that could be zone 2. When you've got your shoulders, which is like zone 3. And depending what state your body is in, depends on how you will breathe, like what zone you'll be breathing from. So this is a very schematic. It goes a lot deeper than this, but just to give you like a basic understanding. If your body or your nervous system, most importantly, is feeling safe and relaxed, and you'll breathe from the belly. Okay, you'll breathe using the diaphragm. It's a calming breath. It's a grounding breath. But then those times where you're feeling aroused, like excited, pumped because you have a gym, you just did like a working set, or you just ran a sprint, whatever, you'll move up to zone 2 and you'll breathe from this area. It's short, it's fast, it gets the breath in, gets it out nice and quick. It doesn't have to travel all the way down to the bottom. You can just like hover it here. It's close to the heart, so it's quite emotional as well. It's quite emotional breathing. Like the chest comes up. And then there's zone 3, which is, almost like life-threatening situation and very, very intense stress. People like breathe up here. It's why a lot of people these days, they have like pain in the back of their neck and top of their shoulders, because they're breathing like this all the time, or just like sitting with their shoulders kind of cramped up. And because we are able to take control of our breathing, we are able to manipulate the way that we feel through breathing into different areas. So for example, if I have experienced something quite stressful and I want to calm myself down, I will focus on breathing techniques that is more abdominal dominant. Getting that breath nice and slow, nice and controlled, nice and relaxed. However, if I want to breathe myself into a state of awareness, or if I want to breathe myself into an energized state, I will dominate the chest area. So, that will stimulate like high heart rate and adrenaline. And there's no practice, which I know, where you want to go and do that. So you just want
to get stressed out.
The zones 1 and 2, shoulders, they should never come up when you're breathing ever. So to zones 1 and 2. So you can take back control and manipulate different areas of your body to stimulate chemical arousal, chemical production, which has like a knock-on effect with hormones and neurotransmitters, and then you can achieve a particular state through the way that you breathe. It's fascinating.
It's so powerful. That's just that simple thing that you laid out, which, like you said, it's a very basic idea, and there's tons more to it, but just that simple idea is very powerful, related back to the idea of hacking into your body. So you have more conscious control over what's happening in your body simply through breath. And even as you were talking about, I could feel, when you're talking about, when you're relaxed or whatever, you're breathing into your belly or whatever. And I noticed, I am. And then, so that's the beautiful awareness of the breath, that it can be so simple, but the extent of that is so powerful, what you can do with that. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, we might leave it there for now, but
all right.
I would love for us to, you've got a bit of a deadline to hop out on. But I'd love us to continue the conversation. Obviously fascinated with what you do and all the possibilities that are there. Is there anywhere you would like to direct people so they can follow you, get in touch with you, experience some of this for themselves, which I, again, highly recommend people do this. It's been, I'm still going to, I should tell you, I've been doing cold showers consistently.
Hey.
So people know this. So I haven't had a warm shower for over a year. It's been a year and 4 months or something. And and it's a huge part of my, my day now. Like it's so invigorating. And there are days where I don't have a shower and I don't get that experience. Not that it just wakes me up, but the experience of doing it and is just so beneficial. So from my experience, it's extremely beneficial. So people should definitely get in touch with you. Where can they do it?
Well, just to piggyback off that, it's well done, by the way, for
thanks.
Having a cold shower every day for like a year and a half. But it's funny, like it becomes almost like a ritual. I don't know if you can agree with me on this, but it becomes like a ritual. And it's like my life now, I feel like I'm so backwards. Sometimes I feel like if you just put someone in a cold shower, when your back is turned, they'll just turn it hot, finish it hot and get out, get a nice bit of comfort and then get out. Whereas I've noticed recently that with me, I'm so backwards. I would like sometimes feel like, I don't want to have a cold shower today, so I have a hot one. Yeah. And then I'll kind of like look over my shoulder and then finish it cold. And then get out.
That's really what I wanted. Yeah, that's great.
So backwards.
That's great. I think backwards is the new forwards.
Totally, man. Totally. Where can people find me? On my Instagram. I'm most active on my Instagram. It'd be getfrost _ Yeah, underscore. So getfrost _ my Facebook page is /getfrost1.
Yep.
And all the information about what I'm doing in terms of my workshops and upcoming courses are all pretty much on my Instagram and my Facebook. So I'm in the middle of a 3-week online course now, which I launched last week as my first week, and I've got another set of dates launching in 3 weeks.
Cool.
So all of the information for that is on my Instagram as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So by the time this comes out, you'll be probably starting up a new round, and I highly recommend people just get involved just to experience it, even if it's just to open their eyes, not necessarily for ice baths and cold showers, but just simply even what the breath can do to just open that doorway a little bit, and then you can nudge it open further for people who are ready to go deeper into it. But
elbow it.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for being here.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk soon.
Thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, pleasure. Bye. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Will. He's a great dude, and imparted some really vital, simple, clear instructions of breathing, nice long deep breaths to calm the nervous system. So hopefully that relaxed you, but also I hope it inspired you to go check him out. There's going to be links in the description below wherever you're viewing this or listening to this, where you can go and check him out. Yeah, I highly recommend you get amongst it. And so thanks again to Will for being a part of this. If you like this episode, please like it, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, share it on social media with your own insights. Please leave a comment below so we can have a conversation about anything you want to add to this, and do the usual things of reviewing it and give it a nice rating on iTunes or Stitcher. This really helps us get the podcast out to more people. So I really appreciate that. If you'd like to get some free music, you can get a download of 5 of my songs by going to mijobiscan.com/free music. You can also get a limited edition signed personalized CD of my latest album Golden Moment by going to mijobiscan.com/GMCD. That comes also with an instant digital download of the album, so you can listen to it, and there'll be a sweet limited edition package coming your way very soon after. So I hope you'll check that out. Thank you very much for listening. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Stay golden, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.